Hello and welcome to the Luminary Podcast. I'm your host, Annie Perry, professional psychic, spirituality teacher, ascension guide, quantum healer, multidimensional being just like you. I am so excited to have you guys here today. I did not think that we were going to be apart for so long. I know some of you may have been a little disappointed. There was no episode last week, and that was somehow there was divine intervention going on. Because if you follow me on Instagram, where I post pretty much every single day, ascension updates, energy updates, like what the hell I'm doing, then you already know I had the pleasure of going out to Washington wine country last week. I got to spend 6 days out there. It was just so beautiful. And I brought all of my work with me. I brought my microphone, I brought my ring light. I had clients that week, and for whatever reason, Spirit intervened and my microphone would not work. I genuinely believed that it was broken forever, that it had gone to the etheric realm. And what is so funny, it's just one of those cosmic jokes, is the second that I got home, I just felt this little nudge, plug it in, try it again. And I plugged it in and tried it again, and now it is fine. That is so funny to me. So I was destined to have a lot more relaxation last week than I was originally going to allow myself. But I'm really excited to be here with you this week because I have episodes that are just bursting and waiting to come out, and so many things that I want to update you on and I want to talk about. So many different psychic experiences that I have had in the month of September. I can't believe that September is almost over. This is unfathomable to me. I don't know where this month went. It just disappeared. And what's been so different this year is since I moved back to Washington State 2 years ago, each time it went into fall and winter, I would have a lot of anxiety. I would be very resistant. I would literally fuck with the weather. I would fuck with the weather. I would actually, I don't really know how to describe it, but I would manipulate the weather to be sunny. And last year I was able to carry the sun all the way into November here in the north, here in Seattle, Washington. And so it's, because I didn't want it to be gray and dark. And I kind of had myself convinced that I get seasonal depression, and that in order for me to be spiritually aligned, I needed to be in some sunny, beautiful place, all of those spiritual influencers that you see out in the wild, on the wild of social media. And this year, just the deep transformation that I've gone through personally, I am so excited for fall. I am so excited. This is the first time in years that I have just been fucking delighted for fall, for spooky season, for sweater weather, for pumpkin spice, whatever. Just feed it to me. Put me in a cozy sweater, wrap me up, set me at my desk, and let me just talk and record podcasts and videos for the next 3 months straight. I'm just down. I am so down for it. I even have this cute little white pumpkin that I got at Trader Joe's. Shout out if you live in the US, you know that cute little store. And I got a little cute mini white pumpkin and I put it on my desk, and it's given me all the vibes. So last week was Equinox week. It was beautiful. I'm so honored that I got to just be out in the wine country. I got to go for walks in the vineyards every day. I got to see some of the last really sunny 70, 80 degree weather. It was beautiful, but it also kind of reinforced the feeling of all right, I'm ready for the rain. And it was raining when I got back to Western Washington, but it was beautiful. It was a beautiful week. There was a lot of purging, clearing energy. I kind of alluded to this a little bit on my Instagram that the day I was supposed to leave for wine country, and I have to drive there, right? I don't take a plane. It's about 2-hour drive away, and it's out in the desert. You definitely want to have a car. You don't want to try to take a plane out there. But I had this huge allergic reaction. It was so strange. I haven't had one for 2 years since before I was, actually 3 years since 2020, September of 2020. So it was like a full cycle had concluded itself. But yeah, I hadn't had any of these allergic reactions since before I got, diagnosed with celiac and stopped eating gluten, and all of my health issues really resolved when I stopped eating gluten. Which just makes you wonder, what the fuck is in the gluten, especially here in the United States? I do not trust what they're doing to the food in this country, and I try to eat organic as much as possible, and I really recommend that too. If you're a very sensitive person, you can just tell when something has been fucked with something synthetic, and it ended up being that a skincare product I had an ingredient called niacinamide. And all of us know what niacin is. It's B6. And this is a normal vitamin that we have in our bodies. We need it to survive. We need it to live. And I was very confused at first because my guides were, I immediately asked my guides, what skincare product is it? They showed me that it was a new cleanser I had just bought 2 days before. I look at the ingredients and I'm like, all right, tell me what ingredient is the one. And they were like, it's the niacinamide. And I was like, what? But the internet tells you that you can't have an allergy to niacinamide because it's B6, it's a vitamin. And they guided me to research how niacinamide is actually created for many skincare brands. And it actually has a starting point of latex. I am allergic to latex. I am not allergic to B6. I am allergic to the starting point of how they create this niacinamide for our skincare products. And it is sad to say that these hidden ingredients that you wouldn't know about unless you research it and find out how the ingredient is made is one of the ways that we stay, sick, that so many starseeds have different autoimmune diseases. I mean, every starseed I know has an autoimmune disease, and that, including myself, which was celiac, and that is not a coincidence at all. That is not a coincidence. And we all seem to have different health issues, allergies, weird shit happens to us. And it's because we're so highly sensitive, and we came here to transmute a lot of this toxic energy. And part of the toxic energy is the toxic things that humans from a lower point of consciousness and from scarcity mindset put in our food, on our crops, on our vegetables, on our wheat, and then we consume it unawares, and what we put in our skincare products. And unfortunately, women use more products than men, so it's no surprise that we end up having a lot more of these negative experiences, these negative reactions, and these autoimmune diseases. I mean, I'll definitely have to go in deeper with it, but that was a big part of my experience during Equinox week, was this whole skin purging. Literally the top 2 layers of my skin had to come off, and I was like, well, I guess I'm shedding this week, and literally shedding. And then, of course, I couldn't record anything, so I spent a lot of time just doing inner work, just journaling. I mean, I journaled for a couple of hours one day. I had this really beautiful purge in my throat chakra, and it was on the left side of my throat chakra. I've had this block there for years, and I've had a lot of different ascended masters and the Z's and different beings kind of remove energy from the block, but it wasn't fully gone. It wasn't fully removed. And part of that is because I needed to come to the awareness of why it was there. And it turns out that it is a shadow from my life's work gene key, which is gene key 58. And in human design, it's called the joy key. But the negative shadow side of it is dissatisfaction, right? Never being satisfied, never enough. And that has really been my journey with scarcity, with money, with love, with affection, with relationships. It's always been scarcity, like there's never enough, there's never a point of satisfaction. And I was shown the day before the equinox that this block actually came from my paternal grandmother, so my dad's mom, who is in the etheric realm now, and she has been one of my main points of contact around different generational things that I am breaking and healing and transmuting. And apparently I got this block from her as a little kid when I lived in her home. I lived with my grandparents for 3 years when I was a kid, from 5 years old to almost 8 years old. And my grandmother, I mean, it just made so much sense. You know, I love her and we have a much stronger, better relationship now that she is in the etheric realm and she is helping and supporting me to break all of this generational bullshit. But when she was alive, I was like, yeah, she was a really unsatisfied woman. Like there was, no matter how much money, no matter how much anyone did, no matter how much her husband loved her, like it was never enough. It was never enough. She had so much shit. She had so much clothes. She had so much jewelry. She had money. She had nice cars. She had a beautiful home. But it was never enough because she was in the shadow of dissatisfaction for her whole life. And when we just live in the shadow and we never do the work of transmuting it, we just stay there. You just stay there. You live your whole life. You can have many beautiful moments. You can have a beautiful family. You can have so much. And yet you will still exit this reality with that feeling of dissatisfaction. And that's really kind of the note that she went out on, dissatisfaction. And those around her felt that too, that her life had been cut short. I think she passed at 60 or 65. And it was that feeling of like she was robbed from us, she was taken from us, we didn't get enough time. And so it's like that feeling of dissatisfaction had an echo, a ripple effect. And I got one of those little blocks in my little throat, 5, 6, 7 years old, those prime programming years. Prime programming. Like some people try to change their teenagers. I'm like, do not try to change your teenager. You need to just love your teenager. The being that is receiving the programming is your 0 to 7 year old. They are the one that is like raw. They are just a blank slate and it's all getting programmed in. Those are the ones that you can have the most impact, the most difference with how you treat them, with how you show up for them, with the energy, what you teach them to believe about themselves. And that feeling of dissatisfaction, I was taught that there is never enough because deep inside, I did not feel or believe that I was enough. This was a generational belief. And so in that moment of realization, who did I call to remove the block from my throat? Grandma. I called Grandma. I said, Grandma, get your ass over here from the etheric realm and pull this out of my throat chakra. And she did. It was incredible. I started talking out loud, even though there was no one around. And I mean, that's not weird for me. I do talk. I do talk to myself, especially when I'm driving. I talk a lot. And, but I started talking and it just felt like my throat chakra expanded and was open and I could have so much more inner dialogue coming through. And I guess as someone who has 100+ podcast episodes, that might not seem like a big deal, but it is a huge deal because we are expanding the podcast. The podcast is actually going to be starting to be available on YouTube. I'm going to start teaching on YouTube. It's going to be a whole thing. And a lot of my Equinox experience was about preparing me for that, expanding my ability to speak, to be heard, to be seen, to have more visibility, to get all of this quantum consciousness out to more people around the world. So on that note, welcome, and I'm glad you're here. Oh man, it's been so beautiful. So in a way, not having my microphone that week was exactly what I needed, because that unblocking didn't come through until Thursday, and I was out there, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday that I was going to be recording all of these episodes. So I'm ready to really just like hit the mic and hit the video and see what comes through. It's going to be really exciting. But the absolute highlight of my Equinox week was Equinox itself, and we had the banquet. Oh my God, I will never forget that night as long as I live. I was in tears afterwards of just shock and delight and love and openness and like appreciation, gratitude. If you don't know what the banquet is a virtual dinner party that I decided to host. My guides were like, you don't need to teach anything. You don't need to do any like quantum healing or anything like a class or a course or anything on the equinox. And that's what I've been doing the past 2 equinoxes, is I've been having like an event, which are beautiful. But they were like, do what you want to do. Do something that you would love. And I was like, I want a dinner party. I want a dinner party. I don't want more money. I don't want more shit. I don't want more stuff. I really want more time with you. With you, the person listening to this podcast that like, I don't even know who you are. I want more time with you. I want to know who you are. I want to know what you love. I want to know why you're here. I want to know what you want to do in this world. And so I put together the banquet, and it was a virtual dinner party. Whoever wanted to sign up could sign up and could come. And I made, like Italian food. Everyone had like whatever food you wanted. I mean, you could have a snack, you could have, just a drink, like whatever made sense for you. But I made Italian food. It was so good. All of us had like our wine glasses or our drink glasses. It was not about being spiritual woo-woos. It was about people just coming together and being so fucking real with each other. We talked about like our struggles, what we were struggling with, what was going good, our personal lives. And it was just honesty, like a deep honesty and a deep like, I get it. Like we're not ascended masters. Like we're humans. We're 3D, 5D beings. Like we have all these human experiences. We talked about the mother wound a lot, which was so healing for me to just know that like other women, my peers out there, were having the exact same experiences with their mother that I am having with my mother, right? So we all have our different shit going on. And there's no point trying to pretend that you're some perfect spiritual master teacher being that only lives in divine perfection all the time, because we don't. We're real people. And so just having your like glass of wine and eating some food and hanging out with people virtually, because we can't always be in person. And so I just seized what was available to me, which is virtually. It was so beautiful, you guys, and we all agreed that there must be more. In my dream ideal world, I would love to do this every single month, and I would love to see all of you there, and I'd love to hear about your life and hear who you are and just be fucking real with you, and not and for it to not be about, trying to be something, for it to not be about trying to be like the best or the smartest or the wisest or the prettiest or the nicest wine glass, to just be fucking real and just show up as who you are. And so that has been such a beautiful, expansive experience for me. And I got to hear so many beautiful things from you guys. That's why I was crying afterwards. You guys said some really nice things to me that I will never forget. I mean, just the love. And it was this deep, heartfelt realization afterwards. I was sitting there, cradling my wine glass, of course. And I was just sitting there like, what is this feeling? What is this feeling? And I realized that I'm 31 years old, almost 32, and it was the first time in my life that I had ever felt truly loved for who I am. For who I am, not for what other people want me to be, but for who I am. For the silly, the funny, the sarcastic, the wise, the quantum, the multidimensional, but also just for like Annie Perry, the real ass human. You know, the first time in my life I felt truly, truly like seen and heard and loved for who I am. That meant everything to me because I did not grow up that way. I did not grow up in an environment where love was freely given. All the love that I had ever experienced in my life had a price tag. It had if you do this, then I'll love you. If you are this way, then I will love you. If you live up to this certain expectation that I have, then I will continue loving you. But if you break it, then I will take that love away from you. The love I had experienced was not freely given. And this is one of the deepest revelations of my entire life. Because we think that the people around us love us until you start to get acquainted with what free, open, unattached, no price tag, no expectation love actually is. And it changes everything. You're like, I can never go back to that entangled, enmeshed, codependent love where I had to be someone that I'm not in order to receive love from you. I would rather be free, to be myself, to be who I am, and then I attract people who love me for who I am. It's not the whole world. The whole world wasn't there. The whole world didn't show up to say, I love you for who you are. Just a few women. And that was all that I needed in the whole world to let me know that I can be freely loved for who I truly am. That I did not have to show up any type of way or be anything different than who I am. I could just be me and be loved for free. That's the most important thing. Love without attachment, love without a price tag, love without a stipulation, love without conditions. That's unconditional love. Freely given. No expectations. I love you for who you are. I mean, wow, I'm so grateful. And so we must do it again. We must do it again. And I hope the women that were there felt just as loved and seen and heard and free to be themselves and free to have problems and issues and like shit they were dealing with and shit they were going through and to not have to be perfect. That is like the most relieving thing in the entire world, to not have to be perfect and to just be who you are, to be real. So grateful for that. So if you want to show up and you want to come to that, definitely send me a DM on Instagram, and I'm going to see when we can have the next one. And I'd just love to see you there. I'd love to meet you. And yeah, there's no better time to be alive than right now during the 2023 Ascension. Beautiful. All right, what else has been going on? If you are not connected with me on Instagram, I am at I Am The Wellspring. That is where you can find daily energy ascension updates, tips, guidance, and advice for navigating the ascension and whatever you might be feeling or going through. I highly recommend being connected with me there, and also being on my email list so that you can receive the Luminary letter that goes out every Sunday. It is a channeled message from different ascended masters. Last Sunday we heard from Morgane. Just a phenomenal, incredibly powerful message. She is one of my favorite ascended masters to connect with. I mean, I know I can't really have favorites, but I've just been loving working with her lately. And this Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, we get to hear from Lady Isis, Mama Isis, my own social memory complex. We get to see what these ascended Blu-ray ladies are up to and what they want us to know. These are nurturance codes. That's what they were sending through. And those are going to be so incredibly important. It's really going to be about how to take care of yourself during the ascension process. I've got Lady Diana on the docket, Ascended Master Diana. She is someone who I've been working with in my business. So we have that coming through. I mean, you don't want to miss these letters. You do not want to miss them. I have been carefully recording all of them. I am hoping to put them all together in a book and to publish that book so that you can sit down and read every single transmission and just get massive energetic upgrades and energy support for your mind, body, and soul during this experience. So that's on wellspringofficial.com. You can sign up for the Luminary letter, get on my email list. That way, if my Instagram ever disappears, and just so you guys know, we don't own these platforms. I do not own the platform that publishes my podcast. They could just, get hacked one day and my whole podcast would disappear. They could, Instagram could, ban me or disappear or get hacked, and I would have no connection to you. So really, my website and my email list is the only things that I truly own and my way to keep in connection with you. And even that is like who the hell knows what could happen. So just making sure that you're plugged in at different areas, different levels ensures that you actually stay connected. If you like what I'm putting down, if you're picking up what I'm putting down and you like it, and some of you do tell me that you like it, so I keep showing up and I keep saying all the things. And we're going to talk about God right now. So we're about to go so deep. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's fucking dive in. So I am someone who grew up in a very religious home. A fundamentalist Christian, independent Baptist, fire-breathing, dragon, Bible-thumping, skirt-wearing, culty vibes. In fact, my own cousin was the first one who told me, look, Annie, we grew up in a cult. And it was the moment of validation that I needed, that it was not just me, that I wasn't just the problem. I know I have problems, but it was not just me, that there was something off the whole time, that this message, this conditional love sold as a direct lie of unconditional love, right? Because in order for you to receive love in that environment, you have to be how they want you to be. You have to do what they want you to do. You have to act the way they want you to act. You even have to believe in the same politics as them. You have to marry the people that they want you to marry. You have to have children so that you can prove that you're really in this cult for good and for sure. And so they can kind of indoctrinate the next generation coming in. I mean, it's a fucking cult. I will just call it like it is. And if you are someone who went to that church or that experience with me, that's what I believe. I fully believe that it was a cult, that it is a cult, that it is a cultish experience, because any time that someone is trying to tell you what to believe without also just saying, you can believe whatever the fuck you want. If you want to believe that raccoons run this universe, that is your divine right to believe. And even though I call myself a spiritual teacher, this is a buffet. You can pick up and take whatever you want. It is freely given. If you distort it into something that it's not, honestly, that is not my fucking problem. I know what I believe. I present what I believe, and it is freely given. So you can pick up what resonates, what's not resonating, and we have the right to change. We have the right to change. We have the right of free will. We have the right to believe what we want to believe. And anytime you get into a group that's no, you can only believe what we believe, and we need to change you to believe this in order for you to be accepted, that's a fucking cult. And I want to go back to the direct lie of saying in Christianity and in religion, God loves you unconditionally, but only if you're saved, but only if you say this special magical prayer, which is really fucking funny to me now that I'm full witch vibes. I'm y'all don't even know what a real incantation is. But this direct lie of like, it's unconditional, but actually here are all the stipulations. Are we that dumb? I mean, we have been, and I certainly was for many of my adult years because I was so deeply indoctrinated. I could not fathom any beliefs outside of these religious beliefs. And I had been taught for years how to defend those religious beliefs, how to literally thwart anyone that would come in and question them. And I was also taught to stay far, far away from any people that believe differently than you. And to not date them, to not marry them, to only stay inside of this little boxed off religion away from the world. And the world is going to get you. It's going to get you. Oh my God, what a fucking living hell. Sometimes I'm like, soul, why did you sign up to literally be like Houdini? Like you were like trapped in all of these chains underwater. You couldn't even breathe for so many years because everything you were doing would have been wrong to them. All of your natural urges, your natural desires, your natural creativity and curiosity was seen as a fucking sin. I had to recently go back to my old ex-church for a funeral, and I was not excited to go there because churches are a building. It's considered also a dwelling, and I know they want to tell you that God dwells there, but let me tell you what, as a psychic, I don't know about that. Because the vibes when I walked in, I'm like, I can't believe I used to think that this place was a refuge. When in actuality, I felt instantly heavy and weighed down. The energy felt like I was swimming through mud. It was just so heavy. It was so dense. I could feel the entrapment of the believers there. I could feel the entrapment. I could feel the chains. I could feel the heaviness. I could feel their souls like just trying to figure out like what the hell is actually going on. And I'm like, damn, I cannot believe that I'm actually free, not believing what they told me to believe to make me free, right? And that is the trap. That is the direct lie. That if you believe this, you like Jesus is going to set you free. I'm like, yeah, I channel Yeshua and you all can't even get his name right. And you're going to tell me about him and what he believes. And then call me like an unnatural sinner, witch, demon woman for saying like, yeah, I can channel him directly. And if I want to, he'll speak straight through me to you. That is the deepest heresy of them all. And so, I walked in, very heavy vibes. Obviously, it's a funeral. I did end up just kind of having to do my own protections around my aura, my field, my mind. But the moment that the pastor got up there, and like I have known this man for almost my entire life. And honestly, like, this is not a condemnation on the person. We have all been entrapped in beliefs, and especially like for the men in those religions, they teach them like you are the dominant leader, the spiritual leader. Honestly, what a fucking joke. Fucking joke. You are the dominant spiritual leader, and it's like your job to control all these sinners and these sinning women, and like don't fall for the evil sorceress's wiles, like the Eve, the Lilith, like they're going to entrap you with their boobs. I mean, it's so beyond. But the moment that he got up there to start preaching, oh my God, I could feel the energy start to funnel through him, out of his, like through his body. All of the energy of these, they are low vibrational, I don't know what to call them, honestly, like they're just these codes of entrapment, of enslavement, essentially. Like, we are going to enslave your mind into believing that this is the only way to exist. There is no single way to exist. You get to be whatever the fuck you want to be. You are not going to hell. There is no such fucking place. You are not going to hell. You are not going to purgatory. You are going to the etheric realm from whence you came. And you will go back there again and again and again. And you will evolve as a soul until you are back one with Source. If I didn't know this to be true from my own experience channeling the etheric realm, I would not say that. But I know in my soul that it's true, and I know a lot of you feel that way as well and have come out of the religious entrapment. But I could feel those entrapment codes just starting to channel through him. And I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not letting this into my auric field. I immediately dropped into intense light language and started repelling all of the energy back onto him. And then I started shielding the entire crowd. And then I started recoding the energy of the entire building. And then I started calling up Gaia through the earth underneath the building to send frequency codes, light codes, crystalline codes up, and to essentially detangle all of the codes of this building and to fully release all beings that have ever been entrapped through these messages, through these words. I was going at it. I was at it for, a good 20 minutes. I almost started speaking the light language out loud because it was coming through me so intensely. And I didn't need to learn how to do any of those things. My soul knows exactly what to do. I just need my ego and my mind to get out of the way, and my soul can do all of that. And there was a point where he was preaching and you could tell he was getting frustrated because he could feel that his words were not being received by the crowd. And I'm like, you don't even know that I just threw a shield over this crowd, and I'm undoing all of the codes of this building right now and setting everyone free. And I could feel the frustration and the intensity as he tried to continue penetrating the shields. And I was like, hell no, I've got to protect myself from this energy because I can feel it coming with a density, with stipulations, with untruths, with lies, with coercion. I can feel its chains starting to try to wrap itself around me, and there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. I am free now to believe what I want to believe, to be who I want to be. My soul feels lighter, and that's how I know that I am on a path of highest truth, because I can walk into a church where they tell me that I should feel the presence of God, and all I feel is the heaviness, the denseness, the sorrow, all of these feelings that I do not associate with what I call the all-knowing. Some people like the word source or God. I think that God has a lot of negative connotations, a lot of negative energy around it at this point, that I don't like to use that word because it insinuates a singular being when I am talking about the oneness of the entire universe, the idea and the concept that all is one. The first universal law, all is one. And from all is one was every other distortion, which is just a differentiation created by the one infinite creator, of which we are all a part, of which we are, of which I am. I am that I am. If the creator's energy is running through me like it is every living being, I am an extension of the creator. And as a self-aware being, I am now learning how to move this energy in order to create. I am an extension of the I am. I am an extension of God. I am part of the all-knowing. But I want to take you so much deeper than just the idea and the concept of energy. I want to literally show you. Because as I have been on this spiritual and specifically my psychic journey, right around March, April of 2021, so not even that long ago, just a couple of months before I would go into the desert and learn how to be fully psychic, how to read energy, auras, chakras, all of these things that I grew up my entire life being told that are not real, that don't exist, and have now just transformed my life and so many of your guys' lives as well. Before that, in March, April, I had to go through a major breakup with religion, with Jesus, with God, with all of these concepts that I had been carrying with me my entire life and were weighing me down and were causing immense distress because they were rooted in the untruth. They were rooted in duality. They were rooted in only some of us are good enough. Only some of us are going to be the believers, and the rest are going to go to this horrible place of torment. I mean, what a fucking nightmare. That sounds like a Halloween movie, and you're teaching that to people 365 days a year? That some of them are going to go to hell? That some of them are not good enough? Like, what a fucking nightmare. And that's honestly how I would describe my experience with religion, is that it is a fucking nightmare. Because in nightmares, you experience the fear. And the fear frequency is unique to the 3D world that we used to know only on this planet. It's a fear school. Earth is a fear school. Any ascended master, spirit guide, galactic family will tell you Earth is a fear school. That is why it's known for being one of the most difficult places in our galaxy. And that's where, more advanced souls come to learn these really deep lessons, because fear is a fucking nightmare. Especially when your resting frequency is true unconditional love with no stipulations, with no conditions, with no pullbacks. And it's also important to know that after I went through that breakup experience with God and just kind of freed myself in my mind, that's when I was able to actually learn all of these higher level concepts, and I was actually able to really step into purpose and into soul wisdom and into channeling this soul wisdom that has changed people's lives, including people that used to believe the same things that I believed. And I think it's also important to know that no spirit guide, no ascended master, no galactic family, no one that I have ever channeled has ever used the word God. The only times I've ever heard God is when they're trying to tell me, like, you are this concept that you've been taught. Like, you are God. If that's the concept you want to believe in, if that's the word you want to use, we're trying to communicate that you are God. But they have never said, this is a message from God. This is what God thinks that you should do. This is what God is saying. They have never used that term. They always use the term, the one infinite creator. And that is a very powerful series of words, because infinite implies all, forever, eternal. Creator does not imply dictator, overlord, control freak, alcoholic father. It implies one who creates. That's it. It doesn't say the one infinite judge, the one who's lurking and judging you at all times, the one infinite overlord, creep. I mean, there's so many. I think the one that changed my life was when Aaron Abke said, because he came out of fundamentalism as well, and he said that God was sold to us as an alcoholic father that we were supposed to be okay with. That we were trained that this abusive relationship was okay, and that we were supposed to accept it. This abusive, if you don't do this, then I will punish you in this way. If you are not this way, then you will get punishment, bad things, negative things are going to happen in your life. That's an abusive father, right? And that's how they sell it to you, is that it's a father, it's a masculine being, it's this being who's sitting up in heaven, getting ready to judge you and strike you down and just like make your life a living hell. And it's like, fuck, this is already hell just hearing about this. No spiritual guide has ever spoken of a God or a being like this, unless they're talking about the negative entities who trick you into giving up your free will through these belief systems and through these threats. And so I had to let go of everything that I knew, and I had to start coming into a new context of what does this one infinite creator like? What are they like? Did they have a personality? Did they have a starting point? Did they have an evolution? Like, how do I conceptualize this in my 3D mind? And I won't lie to you and pretend like it's been an easy journey trying to conceptualize this when you come out of such a deep place of programming and thinking that this is a being, that this is a single being. So I tried to think of it as all of this energy. And I tried to, many of you have heard of the time that I spoke to the void. I asked, show me the face of God, and the void looked back at me. And so I was like, okay, is it just the void though? Because I know that the void is the feminine, but I also know that light is the masculine. And the way that energy finds focus is through the light, that they work together in tandem. The great balance of a still energy and a outward focused energy. And I had this struggle conceptualizing God all the way until this summer when I became a quantum healer. And my guides took me through the process of channeling this higher light energy for the purpose of healing. And it's also worth noting that I no longer use this energy just to do chakra clearings. I've actually been using it to heal myself. I used this energy just last night to relieve me of a migraine. I had a bad migraine and I was able to channel this higher light in through my body and relieve myself completely of the migraine. I felt amazing afterwards. I slept really well. I used it just last week. During Equinox week, I was on my period and I had cramps, back pain, and my guides were like, use the higher light. I called in the higher light. It not only relieved all of my cramps and my back pain and all of the discomfort that we experience as women who have periods, it actually made my entire body feel good. So it wasn't just you're relieved of the pain, you're now kind of at this neutral point. It actually lifted me into this feeling of good, my body felt good. Very relaxed, very light, almost this warmth all over me in the best way. So I want to share with you what I see and experience when I asked my guides, show me where this energy is coming from. And that is when I met the all-knowing. I want you to imagine, if you will, that you close your eyes and you open your heart. The gateway to all higher frequencies is through the heart chakra. This must be activated. This must be open. Otherwise, you're just sending the lower frequency of the lower 3 chakras up through the crown, bypassing the heart chakra and trying to reach these higher levels that will not open because the density, the heaviness of the lower centers, it's too heavy, it's too dense. It's like trying to get a brick to float. And so we must open the heart chakra that allows our body to release density and it allows our consciousness to raise into this higher frequency. And it is from there that we are able to access higher and higher and higher dimensions, higher and higher levels of consciousness, higher and higher frequencies that go all the way up to complete ecstatic bliss. But that is not the direction that I went. That is not the direction that I go when I am channeling higher light. Instead, what I do is I drop into my heart space, I open my heart space, and I reconnect my heart through golden cords, purely through intention, through my own divine will. These golden cords, I connect them to every living being. Every living being, plant, animal, human, and when it hits human, it's like this surge of energy goes through me because I am not connecting with the 3D version of all humans. I'm connecting through the heart space, which is a 5th dimensional chakra. I am connecting to the 5D version of every living being on this planet. That's nearly 8 billion 5th dimensional self-aware creator beings. It is wildly powerful, wildly healing. And you just feel yourself catapulted into complete wholeness, There is no wounds in the fifth dimension, right? This is what we learn in my course called Transcend. We transcend the 3D, which is duality, and we go straight into the 5D, complete wholeness. You're already whole in the fifth dimension. That's not a place that you reach. It's a consciousness that you choose. You're already whole. You're already complete. There is nothing imperfect about you. It is merely where our awareness is that dictates what we feel about ourselves, being whole or being wounded. And so in that moment of connecting with every fifth dimensional heart chakra on the planet, you were catapulted into such complete wholeness. And that's when the fractalization begins. In the moment of connecting my heart chakra and being catapulted into that complete wholeness, I see vast space and the void all around me, forever eternal, as part of the all-knowing. And at the same time, I see all of these billions, trillions, infinite golden fractals everywhere. And these golden fractals are alive, they're aware, they're deeply connected. I call them the all-knowing. This is what I experience as God now. I see these golden fractals everywhere, and I know that it only takes one breath for me to release my form. My form is a gathering of these golden fractals, pretending to be Annie Perry for one glorious moment in infinity. And yet with my next breath, I can release this form and I become golden fractals and I merge with all of these golden fractals. And we are one. And I understand them and the way that they flow through the universe. And I don't need my identity. I don't need my ego here because all is one. I am now reconnected to the all-knowing. I now understand everything that there is to understand. The complete understanding of why all of this exists, why it's happening. It's one joyous moment of creation. It is an inhale and an exhale of the one infinite creator, the all-knowing. These golden fractals that move through our universe, creating, individualizing, and then dispersing and reuniting with all others, just like a wave. The wave rises up, it individualizes for a moment before crashing down and becoming part of the vast ocean once more. And there's just this infinite joy with the all-knowing, as if all of these golden fractals are joyfully moving through the universe, creating as that wave, and then crashing down and coming back to part of the oneness again. As if we are all singing the same song. Individualizing for a moment, and then reharmonizing once more. It is everything. And at the same time, this sense of it is nothing. Because it doesn't need to be either or. It is flowing life force and potential. The joy of creation when everything is possible. Infinite potentiality. Moving through these fractal beings, these fractals of light, these fractals of all-knowing, these fractals of awareness. They need no form, they need no identity, they do not need to individualize. If they do, it's just for fun. It's just for the joy of creation. It's just for the moment of the wave rising out of the ocean before crashing back down delightfully. Perfectly safe, perfectly whole. I felt complete wholeness, complete connection. No form. No identity, no ego. Complete peace, complete comfort. Knowing that this was home. This all-knowing was every fractal, every atom of my being that identifies in this single moment as Annie Perry, and yet it would disperse back into the all-knowing. I would be part of the oneness. And it any given moment, I can experience that again. It is not, and nor will it ever be, separate from me or from you. It is nothing more than a matter of where your awareness has decided to land. That's it. If we decide that our awareness lands on separation, we will see a world of separation of different individual beings, but at any moment you can choose to put a different lens on, and you can shift back into the all-knowing, all fractals, all part of the whole. It is complete and absolute wholeness. And the first time I experienced the all-knowing, I knew that there was no other definition I would ever need for God or the one infinite creator. That this energy was flowing like a river through me at all times, that these golden fractals were a part of me at all times, that I was infinitely and forever and intricately connected to them and could never be parted or separated from them. And so all separation was nothing more than a playful illusion created by us for pure delight. And I knew immediately in that moment, one of those clear knowings, that this is the place where all healing happens. Because what you perceive to be illness, injury, heartache is an arrangement of fractals as separation. And when you reconnect your awareness to the all-knowing, the fractals fill in the distortion of separation, bringing you back to complete wholeness. That's it. That's how all quantum healing happens. If you're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, you probably understand this concept very well, but perhaps you have not seen it in this way of these golden fractals moving through infinite space, infinitely connected all together. As waves, as particles, all is one. I've done many of Dr. Joe's meditations, and I did have a hard time because I'm very visual, I'm very clairvoyant. I had a hard time really getting to that moment of pure void and pure surrender. And that's the moment when you surrender what you perceive to be the illness, the heartache, the wound, the physical injury, the autoimmune disease. That's the moment that you surrender it back to that higher state of consciousness that will then allow you to be completely whole. The way that I see it and understand it is that I merge back with the all-knowing, with these fractals, and I can channel them at any moment. And this is what I call higher light. This is what I do in my quantum healings. I can channel them through me to fill in any distortions of separation, because that's all that my pain was. That's all that my migraine was. It was nothing more than an arrangement of the fractals as separation, presenting itself as pain in my head, as pain in my lower abdomen, as pain in my back. That's all that it was the fractals arranged in such a way as to be received by my consciousness as separation, which is then felt as pain. And my consciousness arranges them this way because that is how we have been taught to arrange them in a third dimensional reality. Most of that arrangement happens on a completely subconscious level, right? The negative emotions festering until they become diseases, until they become illness, until they become pain in some part of our body. But the negative emotions are nothing more than an arrangement of these fractals. And so when I connect into the all-knowing, I'm brought back to the 0 point, I'm brought back to wholeness, and they immediately fill in all of the gaps that create the perception of separation. And it's just completely whole again. And I have to tell you, that wholeness feels so fucking good. When I was sharing about how I healed my migraine and the period cramps and pain, And I felt good afterward. I felt this lightness. I felt this like glowing sensation in my own body, this warmth. That's the wholeness. That's the natural state of being. That's who we truly are. I just brought it back into the complete wholeness. I just allowed the fractals to fill in the space. Some of you might see this as sacred geometry. Some of you might see this as fractals. Some of you might see this as different colors or different sounds. There are infinite ways for the all-knowing to present itself, but at the end of the day, it is a flow of energy that is either separating itself to distinguish, to identify for a temporary moment before it comes back to the whole and blends in with just pure energy. In that moment, everything just made complete sense. And like I said, I want to show you, which means that I am creating a guided meditation to show you the all-knowing, to show you these golden fractals, to take you psychically all the way there. Your soul already knows the way. The mind just needs a guide. And I want to read for you some of these excerpts from the Law of One channel transcripts that I think communicates exactly what I'm saying. And so the questioner asks, can you tell me of the earliest first known thing in the creation? Ra says, I am Ra. The first known thing in the creation is infinity. The infinity is creation. The questioner asks, from this infinity, then must have come what we experience as creation. What was the next step or the next evolvement? And Ra says, I am Ra. Infinity became aware this was the next step. And they go on to say, awareness led to the focus of infinity into infinite energy. You have called this by various vibrational sound complexes, which means words, the most common to your ears being logos or love. The Creator is the focusing of infinity as an aware or conscious principle called by us as closely as we can create, understanding or learning in your language, intelligent infinity. So the infinity is creation. Infinity became aware. Awareness led to the focus of infinity into infinite energy, which is called love. The next step is still at this space-time nexus in your illusion, achieving its progression as you may see it in your illusion. The next step is an infinite reaction to the creative principle following the law of one, in one of its primal distortions, freedom of will. Thus, many, many dimensions, infinite in number, are possible. The energy moves from the intelligent infinity due first to the outpouring of randomized, creative force. This then creating patterns, which in holographic style appear as the entire creation, no matter which direction or energy is explored. These patterns of energy begin then to regularize their own local, shall we say, rhythms and fields of energy, thus creating dimensions and universes. The questioner asks, then can you tell me how this galaxy and this planetary system were formed? Ra says, I am Ra. You must imagine a great leap of thought in this query. For at the last query, the physical, as you call it, universes were not yet born. The energies moved in increasingly intelligent patterns until the individualization of various energies emanating from the creative principle of intelligent infinity became such as to be co-creators. Thus, the so-called physical matter began. The concept of light is instrumental in grasping this great leap of thought, as this vibrational distortion of infinity is the building block of that which is known as matter, the light being intelligent and full of energy, thus being the first distortion of intelligent infinity, which was called by the creative principle. This light of love was made to have in its occurrences of being certain characteristics, among them the infinite, whole, paradoxically described by the straight line, as you would call it. This paradox is responsible for the shape of the various physical illusion entities you call solar systems, galaxies, and planets, all revolving and tending toward the lenticular. And the questioner asks, could you tell me how intelligent infinity became, shall we say? How intelligent infinity became individualized from itself? Ra says, I am Ra. This is an appropriate question. I love when they say that. The intelligent infinity discerned a concept. This concept was discerned due to freedom of will, of awareness. This concept was finity. This was the first and primal paradox or distortion of the law of one. Thus, the one intelligent infinity invested itself in an exploration of many-ness. Due to the infinite possibilities of intelligent infinity, there is no ending to many-ness. The exploration, thus, is free to continue infinitely in an eternal present. That would be the eternal present moment that we are all experiencing. Sarah El-Kadi said something recently in one of her videos about Christ consciousness. And she said that when you reach full Christ consciousness, you live in constant paradox. Infinite, finite, understanding that both of these exist simultaneously. It's so beautiful because it makes so much sense, and yet to the lower mind, it makes no sense. That's the paradox. I don't know what God means to you, but I know that for me, reimagining God and becoming reacquainted with the all-knowing, with these golden fractals of light, cocooned in an infinite vast expanse, pure energy, creating freely, joyfully, abundantly, forever and ever, not taking itself too seriously, loving unconditionally because it is all that is. When you're the only being in the universe, what point is there in judging yourself? There is no one else around to judge you. There is no one around to shame you. There is no one around to condemn you. What would the purpose and the point of that be? You are all that is. You are part of the one infinite creator. You are part of the all-knowing, and there is a wholeness that has its arms wide open waiting for you. And it's one of the most glorious things that you can ever re-experience in this lifetime. I am very much looking forward to releasing the all-knowing, which will be an advanced psychic activation, but it will be put here for free on the podcast and on the YouTube channel that is being created right now by the fractals of light that I call my hands and my fingers. It is being created right now. I hope that you'll join me there and on Instagram as well. The last thing that I want to mention is something that I talked a little bit about on my Instagram stories today, but it is relevant for the next 2 months, and it is about freedom codes. One of the downloads that came through for me just last night was that there are major waves of freedom codes being sent to the planet over the next 60 days. So pretty much for all of October and November of 2023, we are receiving an influx of these freedom codes. And if you really listen to those excerpts that I read from the Law of One, by the way, that was session 13. If you want to read that on the lawofone.info, you can go to session 13 and read the full transcript. But if you really listen, you'll hear them mention freedom, right? The freedom to creating freely. These freedom codes are to set us free, to release us from a lot of the enslavement distortions that we have experienced on this planet, primarily through the different financial institutions, the different financial systems that we have on this planet, banking, debt, the workforce, the belief that we need to be a part of this workforce that is very numbed out to the energy, to the ascension, and many of you are desiring to get out of those programs and those distortions. Many of you are experiencing the negative side effects because they are in full 3D frequency. And many of you that are having a spiritual awakening, you are now a 3D and 5D being. And so the part of yourself that is 5D feels like it can no longer put up with the full 3D distortion. So what you're feeling is completely real. You were designed to live a different life. You were designed to become a hybrid being of 2 different dimensions, and our children and children's children will be full 5th dimensional beings. But these freedom codes are being sent to the planet through different solar waves. Again, they're going to last for about 60 days from the end of September all the way through the end of November, and you can invoke freedom codes on any area of your life that you desire to be set free from distortion, from illusion, and from low vibration. So you can either say the word freedom with your full body, heart intention over any area of your life, or just focusing on that area of your life. Maybe it is a relationship, maybe it is a job, maybe it is money, maybe it is debt, whatever it is that you desire to be set free from. You can say freedom 7 times, focusing on that area of your life, or you can do a full, just intuitive invocation, which goes something like this. I activate all crystalline freedom codes in my reality. I allow them to transform, transmute, and release me from all slavery thought forms. I am free. I am that I am. And you just focus that on your life if you really want to be set free in all areas, or on a certain area of your life where you are feeling stuck, trapped, enslaved, like you can't get out, like you can't get out from under it, and allow your higher levels to set you free through these freedom codes. And so it is a recoding of lower thought forms. It is just what we learned about and discussed. It is those golden fractals filling in a distortion, bringing it back to wholeness. Wholeness, love frequency, the 0 point, and freedom, your free will, is your resting frequency. So these are really key. I'm going to be talking about them. Maybe I'll do a shorter podcast about them again in the future, but my guides just reminded me about them as I was getting ready to close out the podcast. So I want you guys all to maybe even write that invocation down or those instructions to say freedom 7 times over any area of your life that you feel trapped in, so that you can allow yourself to be free. It is your divine right. You do not need to be good enough, worthy enough, any of those dualistic thoughts. You already are all that is. All right, beautiful beings of divine light, you know where to find all of my upcoming classes, programs, master classes, somatic wealth flows, memberships, group programs, one-to-one psychic mentorship. All of that is on wellspringofficial.com, or you can reach out to me directly on Instagram through my DMs at I am the Wellspring if you want to know about any of my programs and availability. I'm so glad that we had this time together, and I hope that this has helped you to reconceptualize God, reconceptualize the all-knowing, remember who you are. Beautiful beings of divine light, you know that I will see you on the next one.